This is a Global Player original podcast.
It's a bright day in Los Angeles, California in autumn 2015, and in a building just a stone's throw from the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a meeting is about to change the course of history. It's taking place in the conference room of an apartment block where a group of online creators live and make videos together. The address? 1600 Vine Street. The name is no coincidence. The 18 people in this room are Vine's biggest stars, the most popular faces of a platform that, though none of them realize it yet, is just months away from total collapse. If you were anywhere online in the 2010s, you'd probably recognize the building, when its modern apartments overlooking public courtyards with views of Hollywood were the backdrop to the internet's most viral videos. And you'd definitely recognize a few of the people in the room. A tight-knit crew of attractive, barely 20-somethings, known for cross-posting videos of pranks and sketch comedy.
Excuse me, man in the muscle shirt? Did you get any muscles with that shirt?
Help me, Purse! I saved you! Woohoo! He's already gone!
Yeah, but that backflip, though.
What's up, guys? I'm just chilling with my boy Jerome.
My name's not Jerome, you stupid white motherfucker.
Sure, most of us were uploading dumb homemade videos back then, but the 1600 Viners, spearheaded by two shaggy-haired brothers named Logan and Jake Paul, turned it into a business.
The guys you're about to meet have more followers than the biggest celebrities, and just one post can earn tens of thousands from advertisers.
The way we got started on Vine is my brother and I were in a competition to see who could have the most followers, and we both had like 200 followers. And I had more, and I was like, dude, I'm going to get more followers than you. And he was like, no. And then it just took off from there.
When I told my friends, yeah, guys, like, let's go make a Vine. Like, I want to be Vine famous. And they're like, in high school, they want to play like football or like whatever. They're like, yeah, okay, Logan, go ahead, go be Vine famous.
So that's how it started out. And then we started getting phone calls being like, yo, promote my app. Eventually the money started growing and growing and growing, and then eventually people were like, come out to Los Angeles and be in my TV show, audition for this, I want to be your manager, I want to be your agent. Like, it all started happening so fast.
Yeah, as you get more and more popular and start to build a brand name for yourself in the space, you start working with big Fortune 500 companies, merchandising deals, you can tour, so there's a lot of ways to monetize. But if you have millions of fans and you can convert like even 5% of them to pay for something of yours, you're in the 7-figure range.
Yep, that's the same Jake Paul who boxed Mike Tyson last November in what was the most streamed sporting event in history. He reportedly earned over $40 million for that.
Declaring your winner by unanimous decision, Jake Paul!
The Paul brothers remain two of the biggest social media influencers in the world, and it was the frat house ecosystem they built on 1600 Vine Street that started it all. It was one of the earliest and most successful content creator houses, shared living spaces where they could collaborate to create content that collectively built their brands. It catapulted the brothers and their buddies next door to global fame. Soon, that kid from that video, oh my God, it's that kid, they were getting guest spots on TV shows, signing major movie deals. They were inking brand partnerships to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So you're worth all the money these companies pay you?
To be honest, I'm worth 3 times the amount of getting paid.
It was the dawn of a new kind of celebrity, and whether you loved them or hated them, at one point you couldn't escape them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. On this fateful day in 2015, the 1600 Viners have arranged a meeting with representatives from Twitter, the social media giant that owns Vine. Their demand is simple. We want to be paid, and we want to be paid big. And if we aren't, well, we'll walk. Abandoning Vine en masse, taking our quite sizable followings with us, willingly decapitating the app's greatest source of popularity. You might be thinking, don't let the door hit you on the way out. But these guys are deadly serious. This meeting is the culmination of years of frustration, remuneration for everything they feel they've given to a platform that's long neglected them. How did it go? Well, hold your horses, folks. There's a whole episode about that. But let's just put it this way. When was the last time you opened Vine? Okay, so how in the bloody heavens did we get here? A bunch of teenage pranksters have Twitter, one of the world's biggest social media giants with a multi-billion-dollar market cap, by the proverbial I mean, can I say balls? Balls feels wrong. Imagine I'm saying a classier version of balls. They're not even past the legal drinking age, but they're holding Vine, an app invention that has revolutionized social media as we know it, for ransom? Well, dear listener, to understand how we got here, we have to go back to when and how it all started. The thing that made Vine interesting, that made the app so popular so quickly, wasn't just that it let you edit videos on your phone, but the creative challenge it posed to the public. You have 6 seconds, now make something good.
It was kind of like a big thing in the office that everyone just sort of was discovering it at the same time. We were like passing around the phone and playing around with it.
Freelance tech designer Rich Arnold also remembers the buzz when Vine landed.
Design where, you hold anywhere on the screen and it records, and then like when you let go, you're creating these cuts. It was very like unique and interesting at the time. And to be totally frank, my immediate first thought was like, okay, I got to rip this off or something.
If you know American accents, you might be able to pick up on Rich's New Jersey twang. He'll play a bigger role later in our story, but at this point, he's just moved to the city to pursue his tech career, which back then wasn't exactly a thing on the East Coast. It was another way that Vine was already breaking the mold.
Tech in general is much more of like a California thing. I think one of the things that makes Vine and other companies of that era kind of fun for me is that they represent like a pretty unique time in tech in New York, where they were sort of the first tech companies in New York where like things were starting to take off. The money had started to arrive and there were like serious companies here, but like the grown-ups hadn't shown up yet. So it was like a very like fun, creative time in the space in New York. And it was meaningfully different than the way tech was operating in California at the time.
What were the things about Vine that felt like cool and new and odd and interesting?
I mean, from a design perspective, the capture methodology was, I think, really interesting and smart. Like, very simple, like, no UI, like, there's no record button. I mean, that's, like, that was not a thing anyone was doing. Just, like, the sort of simplicity of it. You could delete segments, but you couldn't edit the length of them. You had to just sort of, like, you record and you get what you get, and then you let go, and then you record something else and you get what you get, and sort of created this like DIY kind of aesthetic. You couldn't upload from your phone, which was also nice. It was forced to do it in camera, and so it was this sort of like democratizing way of creating content where it just feels like this moment that you're living in.
Well, as a tech reporter, I heard about it obviously when Twitter acquired it pre-launch. It was in beta. The day that it exited beta, I downloaded it.
Taylor Lorenz is a celebrated tech journalist, well known for her coverage of Vine, so it seems fitting that she was one of the first to experience the 6-second phenomenon.
Within a couple of days, I was in Grand Central Station, and I recorded this like stop motion kind of animation thing of people walking through the big hall of Grand Central Station, and it made the popular page. And that was like a huge deal for me at the time, For one of the single most consequential online products in modern history, very little is actually known about Vine's origin story. We know it went big. We know it went bust, but where in the heavens did it actually come from? Well, the only way to figure it out is by finding a founder. But according to my producer, Mary, that's not as easy as it sounds. Okay, Mary, 3 founders. Who are they? What do we know about them?
Yes, so the 3 founders are Dom Hoffman, Russ Yusupov and Colin Krull. Mm-hmm. So let's start with Colin Krull. It's a sad start to our quest, unfortunately, because Colin is not here anymore. He was a computer scientist. He made his name with Vine and then later HQ Trivia, but he actually died in 2018 of an accidental drug overdose, almost 2 years after Vine was shut down. So that leaves us with Dom and Russ.
Okay, so Dom Hoffman, what's his vibe?
Yeah, Dom... interesting guy, quite elusive.
Yes.
A little inconveniently elusive for our purposes. He's got an incredibly sparse Wikipedia page and an even sparser personal website.
Couldn't quite believe his personal website. I think there's maybe 20 words total on the whole website. It doesn't feel like a man who's aching to be contacted.
Very much not. And we have tried. We've reached out on every single platform.
Lord,
every
we have
email.
tried.
We've sent little moles into Silicon Valley.
You've got an indication now that maybe the answer is no.
So I tapped into a grapevine and I have been led to believe that a message from us has been put in front of his face. And still nothing.
Okay.
I think that's a no.
Fair enough. We can close the book on Dom. So that leaves us with Russ Yusupov. What do we know about Russ?
So Russ, a bit more promising.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot about him online. After Vine, he founded HQ Trivia along with Colin, so it's got a bit more of a presence. And we have actually managed to have human contact with him.
Quite surprisingly, I just cold emailed and I said, "Hello, would you like to be on my podcast?" Obviously did not expect to get a reply. And then like 6 weeks later, in my inbox, boop, boop, Hi, yeah, Russ would maybe like to talk.
We now have an agreed time and place for an interview.
Yes. The time is 10 minutes from now.
Yes.
The place is here.
Exactly. And I've had WhatsApp communication with him this morning, which has given me reason to believe that he is going to show up.
Okay, so all things being equal, we should be talking to Russ in about 10 minutes. Dear listener, if the next voice you hear is Russ, we did it. If it's not, well, we tried.
All right. Test 1, 2.
Can you hear me?
Yes. No, I could hear you.
Surprise! He turned up. Ross Yusupov, Vine founder, in the flesh. Yeah, Russ. Excited to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here. Well, not in the flesh so much as sat in New York chatting with me over video, but there he is. Yeah. Jet black hair, peppered with grey, black T-shirt, professional-looking microphone, a tasteful potted plant behind him. But he does quickly disable his video. Like any good reporter, I kick things off with a hard hitter. Why 6 seconds?
So we get this question a lot. We experimented with all lengths, up to 30 seconds, 10 seconds, even down to 2 seconds. 6 felt right. It also is easily subdivided into 3 2-second clips. So you can create a video with like a beginning, a middle, and an end, which kind of felt right as like a narrative format. But we did experiment with many lengths. 6 ended up feeling long enough that you could make something of substance, short enough that it was really quick to upload and really quick to download. Yes, on the internet, creativity is boundless, but some of these formats that do restrict what you can do really help inspire people, whether it's Twitter's 140 characters or Instagram's square photos or even Snapchat's disappearing photos or kind of a creative constraint. The difference between a boring video and something that's really captivating is like editing. Like you can cut from one shot to another and use that juxtaposition to tell a story and to create meaning. So that's what we focused on. But we knew it had to be more of an internet aesthetic. And on the internet, things are faster, things are snappier. And we made them square because we wanted to kind of remove as much decision-making from the creator as possible.
Simplicity. The heart of any good idea. And Russ had a lot of those. There's a lot of hype around tech founders, a lot of mythology, but before Vine was even a thing, Russ's portfolio of work was already intimidatingly impressive.
I started my career as an interaction designer. I designed the very first version of the Nike Plus iPhone app. I also designed the very first version of Hulu.com, as well as the Hulu logo in 2007. And in 2009, I started my own mobile app studio called Big Human. I still design mobile apps and UI every single day, focused pretty much on the interface layer, right? Thinking about how to craft the best user experiences for people to do things in new ways.
For someone who would soon hit entrepreneurial mega stardom, Russ's story probably doesn't start where you'd expect.
I am an immigrant from the USSR and moved to New York in 1989 as a little kid and grew up in Queens and Manhattan.
Until the age of 5, Russ was a child of communism, growing up in the USSR in what is now Tajikistan. In 1989, a couple of years before the Soviet Union collapsed, his family joined thousands of others in a huge migration wave out of the country. But his family didn't just leave the USSR, they moved to the very heart of capitalism itself, New York City. But it wasn't Wall Street that captured young Russ's imagination.
I've always been interested in art and design. Especially being in New York, I was really influenced by people who, I guess, considered themselves to be artists. And, being around people that sang and danced and played instruments and painted, like that gave me the inspiration and that perspective to see the world through the eyes of like people who were deeply inspired by creative tools and the creative act.
When it came time to find a job, design was a natural fit for Russ, and it's maybe not what you'd expect from a tech founder. In a world of Bill Gates characters building computers and writing code in their family garage, Russ's more artistic leanings stood out. But friends sought him out for design work for their tech startups, and he was in the right place at the right time. It was 2009, right in the middle of the financial crisis, but the tech industry was surviving and thriving. Along the way, Russ picked up an important lesson. To have the freedom to properly pursue your own ideas the way you wanted, you needed to be your own boss. You needed to be a founder.
Yes, I think in design school at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, I was taught that designers are very entrepreneurial and self-starters. So the main foundational principle in my education there was around designer as author. So how do you create your own design work from your own voice, right? And have that personal connection to your work.
Russ wanted creative control over his next project, but he needed partners. The first to join him was Dom Hoffman.
We had met on the internet, I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, as part of a community of digital creators, if you will. Before social media, people used to come together on the internet through message boards. That's how I met Dom. We were both interested in the same things: heavy metal music, video games, Flash websites, web design, 3D modeling, and 3D art. And then in 2006, 2007, we started working at the same firm in New York and collaborated on the first version of Hulu.com, and we redesigned CNN.com and other projects together. It was a really great collaborative relationship, and we were close friends.
Russ and Dom seem to have one of those friendships where it just feels like your brains are in sync, excited by the same questions, fascinated in solving the same problems.
At the time, Dom and I were working on different video technologies, right? We were thinking, like, how do we make watching TV better? You know, what would a TV channel that was personalized to you look like? And we were constantly looking at other video experiences, and there was this one particular problem that we were interested in solving. It was like, how do we help people make a video on their phones easier and more enjoyable? Because at the time, around 2012, making a video on your phone involved like holding your phone horizontally. You know, you just like had endless seconds to record. So a lot of videos ended up being minutes long. And then uploading those videos was really painful. Like 3G cell networks were pretty slow. So it took, half hour to upload a video that was a couple minutes long. And then downloading that video and watching it was just as painful of an experience. The video wasn't that interesting, right? And the payoff wasn't that great.
Remember, social media in 2012 wasn't the moving feast of crisp, high-definition videos we have on our phones today. It was pretty much all photos, which, if your 3G held out, took a couple seconds to actually come into focus. Videos, well, those were for desktop, when you had decent Wi-Fi. And so the first seed of Vine began to sprout.
Yeah, we fell in love with the idea pretty much immediately after that spark.
At what point did you make the decision to go, oh, this seems like a nice idea, to we should try and make this, maybe this could be something?
So, we're also looking around at different creation tools, and we found one that one of our peers, Dan Savage, had created called GIF Shop. And it let you make a GIF on your phone in a really simple way. And we thought, well, what if we used some of these learnings and help people make a video, right? So let's help you capture more frames, include audio, and let that play back on a loop, just like a GIF.
Dom and Russ needed one final piece to their puzzle, a programmer who could actually build an engine capable of powering the vehicle. That's where Colin, the third founder, comes in.
We had invited Colin shortly after founding Vine to help develop the back end and the technical infrastructure.
And did you feel that there was an element of risk in sort of putting your eggs in that basket, or were you pretty certain about Vine?
We were pretty certain about Vine. We knew we had something special. We knew that all of the friends and people that we gave the prototype to enjoyed it just as much as we did, and that there was something there, something with big potential.
In June 2012, the company was officially founded. They were going for it. But nothing gets made without some cash, and that takes finding funders. Luckily, they had a head start.
We started programming the prototype, and we were introduced to a venture capitalist, Adam Ludwin, and he was very interested in what we were working on and said, whatever you guys do next, I want to support it.
With a VC relationship already solidified, Russ and the team were able to push ahead without the usual monetary headaches of other startups.
And he was in those early meetings when we came up with the idea for Vine. He was very quick to write us a check, and he was very quick to introduce us to his other VC friends. The pitch, we never really had a pitch deck. We simply just invited them to the beta, and they were able to just use the app and see if they liked it for themselves and see if they saw potential.
The beta, if you don't know, is an early form of a product that you can kind of test and try out. You see, they never pitched Vine. They just let people play with it. And the results spoke for themselves. Checks were being signed before the 6 seconds had even elapsed.
The VC funding just allowed us to build without feeling like, oh, we're taking on so much risk, spending all of our own money. We knew we were in good hands, and we knew we had the runway to keep experimenting and keep working on the thing.
You might have noticed that Russ doesn't exactly get excited about much, or seemingly anything. He's a classic inventor, more concerned with product than with popularity. And the product was good. Like, really, really good. The biggest names in tech were coming knocking. The stakes had never been higher, and investors urged caution. They advised Russ and the team to let the experts handle the negotiations. But they didn't listen. Enter Big Daddy Twitter, the tech giant with deep pockets, global ambitions, and a deal that, for better or worse, would change everything.
Yeah, Dom, Colin, and I, we went out to San Francisco. We met with Twitter leadership over the course of, I think, a day or two, back and forth with our attorneys and our accountants, but not with the VCs.
Is this like, in this era of tech, are you thinking we should wear suits, or is it like we got to go tech casual? I'm just trying to picture what that room is like,
Yeah, well, we were wearing button downs tucked into jeans and nice shoes.
Okay, but you were like, this is the big leagues. We better break out the button down.
Exactly.
My friend, Twitter did not only invest; they bought the whole bloody thing. Was there ever any other offers from other companies?
Nope.
Twitter
and our investors complained to us to this day that we sold too early. We should have, said no to Twitter and grown it much bigger than we did at the time of sale. It felt right at the time. No regrets.
On the 9th of October 2012, Twitter acquired Vine for $30 million. The two sailed off into the sunset, and everything went smoothly. Well, not exactly, but we'll get to that. Let's stick with Russ and the gang for now. Well, you sound quite cool about it now, but as you say, you were guys in your 20s. You've got one of the biggest companies in the world throwing money at you. There must have been a bit of champagne popping or chest bumping or something going on.
It was a proud moment for us. We did celebrate.
More exciting for the team was preparing Vine to launch to the global public. It had come a long way since that initial spark of an idea from Russ and Dom, but even in its early form, the app had features and design no one had ever really seen before. Stuff that would change the face of the internet forever.
For a while in the Vine prototype, you had to tap on the video to load it before it played. And being inspired by GIFs, we made the decision to just make them play automatically and load automatically. So we started loading a video before it entered the viewport to make the experience even faster. So while you're watching a video, the next video would already start loading. And we made it autoplay, which was another innovation that didn't exist on the internet before Vine. After launching Vine, YouTube started autoplaying videos, and pretty much every other video platform started doing the same. And this endless feed of videos became part of the core experience of Vine.
Can we pause on this a second? Because I don't think I knew that Vine were the first to do autoplay.
Yeah, definitely the first to popularize it, which is kind of crazy when you think of the ripple effect onto the world today.
Autoplay has changed so many things. And that is so much something that you do just think is part of the inevitable course of the internet. But they were the first to do that.
Definitely. It's one of those inventions that once you have it, you can't imagine life without it. But how many articles are written every day about how autoplay video is breaking our brains,
destroying us? Yeah, I'm really impressed, but I'm also a little bit furious with them
But I guess it's a Pandora's box thing, right? Like, if they didn't invent it, maybe someone else would have. I don't know how much blame you can lay at their feet. Could they have really known back then what they were unleashing? I'm always hung up that they popularised looping video. Because looping video, now it's synonymous with TikTok, but, in 2013, that was basically witchcraft. You want to watch a video, you hit play, You watch it to the end and it ends. But by removing a beginning and the end, you kind of stretch the concept of a video entirely into something else. It's not an obvious idea necessarily.
We were inspired by GIFs, but we also felt like these really short videos left a lot to be desired when you got to the end of them. It was just like, oh, is that it? So adding the loop felt natural, and it also unlocked quite a bit of creative potential for the art form, in that people can now start playing with that loop. In many comedic formats on Vine, people used the punchline as the beginning of the video. Right. So, we say that the videos are 6 seconds, but they're actually just a bit longer than 6 seconds. We found that people liked to record videos just up until this fraction of a second at the end of the progress indicator for how much video you've recorded. And people thought that they had a lot more time left in the video than they actually did. So we allowed people to overshoot to like 6.3 or 6.5 seconds. And then in the video player within Vine, that's where the magic was really built in to make that video loop seamlessly.
That's interesting, because I've heard this mentioned that it's longer than 6 seconds, but I thought that it was longer than 6 to facilitate the loop, but actually it's sort of to trick the user in a positive way into making them think they've got enough time.
Right. People always thought they had a lot more time left when there's just that little bit of space remaining in the progress indicator. They thought they had time for like a few more words or the punchline. So we let them overshoot.
Remember that little tidbit for your next pub quiz? But enough shop talk, let's jump back into the story. So Vine had money, they had the backer, and they had some very exciting features, but the team were barreling towards a launch without one crucial element: a name. It was Dom who first suggested Vine. Can you remember any of the rejected names?
Yes. Vibe, Bloom, Mood. Yeah, those are just a few of them, but we have a whole list of rejected names. Funny story, just before we launched Vine under Twitter, Twitter's trademark attorneys gave us a call and said, hey, there's a Vine.com, which is an e-commerce website, that may have issue with Vine as a video app. And we had to scramble and rename the app. We renamed it Verse for a brief while. We created a whole new logo, changed every instance of Vine in the app to Verse. But just the day before we were due to launch, we changed it back to Vine and said, screw it, we'll take the risk.
On the 23rd of January 2013, just 3 months after Twitter bought it out, Vine was in the greasy little palms of the public. This was make or break. I mean, what do you remember of launch day?
Excitement, a bit of unease. The engineering team was probably most on edge because they were concerned about keeping the service up and making sure that we can scale the service to meet the demand, this rush of downloads and users. But mostly excitement. We were happy to get it out, and we knew it was the beginning. Yeah, there was definitely champagne on launch day.
The engineering team's efforts paid off. Vine didn't crash. It was a dream come true for Russ. Because, you personally, you'd come from the former USSR, and now you've come to the US and, basically conquered this massive US tech company. Does that feel like a sort of personal hero's journey for you?
If someone told me when I was 5 years old that, the work that I would do in my 20s would go on to influence internet media and culture in the way that Vine had, I probably would have said, oh, wow, cool, amazing. America is great. It's great to kind of have that freedom and that opportunity to just build and create companies and to do things that have never been done before and have that impact. I don't think I would have been able to do that if I was in communism. not really possible in communism.
Was your family, could they comprehend it at the time? Were they proud?
I mean, my parents, they knew that what I was doing was interesting and special, but not really in a detailed way. It wasn't until people from their community, gave them accolades and gave them praise that they understood it, right? I had sent them articles in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and CNN about the Vine launch and what we were doing. And I remember my mom saying, "Oh, that's nice, son. Like, that's great." But then when we were on the cover of the local community newspaper in Russian, my mom called me. She's like, "Wow, I'm so proud of you, son. Amazing."
From the imagination of its three founders, in no time at all, Vine was in the hands of the public, but never in their wildest dreams or worst nightmares could they have predicted the eruption brewing beneath their feet. How their little easy-to-record, easy-to-share video tool would disrupt celebrity, revolutionize entertainment, change the way we live online, and die all too soon. As any founder will tell you, it's not the creator that defines what an app does, it's the user. And on the horizon, Viners were amassing.
It was all kind of merging into one big cartel kind of thing, if you know what I mean. It was brilliant.
Vine was a new frontier, and some of its earliest creators were the first to crack the code of going viral. But what made some soar, while others faded into the scroll? In the next episode, the scrappy, weird Wild West days of early Vine and the pioneers who turned 6 seconds into a new kind of fame.
It was more dangerous, I think. That was fun about it. You needed to make sure that was perfect. You had to get it. You had to get it. If you didn't, you were screwed.
You can listen to Vine's 6 Seconds That Changed the World on Global Player. Download it from the App Store or go to globalplayer.com. Vine 6 Seconds That Changed the World is a global original podcast, created and hosted by me, Benedict Townsend, and produced by my co-creator, Mary Goodhart. Narrative and creative by producer Kevyah Cardoso, score and sound design by Patrick Lee, and mix by Chris James. Sophie Snelling is the executive producer, Al Riddel is head of Factual podcasts, and Vicky Etchells is director of podcasts at Global.
This is a Global Player original podcast.